Well, there are almost 50,000 Australian children living in out-of-home care, with close to 40,000 of those kids living separately from their birth families for more than 2 or more years and unlikely to return home. Now, these children, on average, face 12 and a half years in the out-of-home care system, with some children moving 10 or 20 times, and others living in residential group homes. In the last year, only 315 kids found their forever home. It's a shocking statistic. That's not even 1%. Deborra-lee Furness, the incredible wife of Hugh Jackman, founded Adopt Change 10 years ago in an effort to find permanent, loving homes for children who need them. And she joins us today along with the CEO of her wonderful organisation, Renée Carter. Ladies, welcome to the show. Deborah, start with you. It's been 10 years since you founded Adopt Change. Have children needing loving homes found them, and are you happy with where we're at, or do we need to go a lot further?
We can never be happy with where we're at. There's always room for improvement, and there's room for great improvement. I'm just saying it's 10 years, and it has been long and arduous. It took us years to even get the conversation up there, and Angela's been with us a lot of the way. So, you know, there's so much to do. No, so we've still got a long way to go. And this came out of a very bad system that was created. It was like in the dark, we had to get past the stigma, like you couldn't even say adopted, it wasn't talked about. And these kids take this on. Like I just said before, I was in the park, my child is mixed race, and someone said, "Oh, is he adopted?" They whispered it.
Whispered like it's a bad secret.
So if you whisper it's a secret, it connotates shame.
Why
and these
is
children,
that the problem?
Because it was a shameful part of Australia's history. If you saw the film Philomena, with the Irish women, all these young women in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s were forced to relinquish their children, given no support, have suffered trauma ongoing, plus the children that were relinquished. Any child that is separated from birth family suffers trauma. So I'm thrilled to say that we've just been, where we come, the New South Wales government's just given us funding, and we are really gung-ho on pre- and post-adoption support, which was not as prevalent in past decades, so that we can educate and train the carers, the foster carers who do an amazing job, the adoptive parents, because if you're going to take on a child, either as a interim carer or for permanent adoption, you are dealing with a child that comes from a hard place. A child separated from birth family has suffered a trauma, and it is a different sort of parenting. So we've been given funding. I hope all the other states will come on board and also give funding so that we can step up and do ethical adoption. Number one is keeping families together, so we're using that funding to do education of how we can keep families together. But obviously if there's abuse, it can't be, and the best option is adoption. And Renée has been amazing. She's gone to work raising all the funds. She's championing all these conferences, dealing with trauma, and is on the front line.
Do you have enough carers? No.
No, we need lots more. Anyone out there listening, if you want to be even an interim carer, we desperately need people who would love to help a child. There's many ways we can help children.
What sort of people are you looking for to be carers?
All kinds of carers. So we need people that may have a few months available, and they can be immediate carers, so children that have a crisis situation and they need a temporary placement, so either before they can return back home or before they find their adoptive home. So we need short-term carers, we need other carers that may only have a weekend a month free to help with respite care, right through to adoptive parents who would be able to look after a child for life. So really there's a whole range, and it's people in all kinds of situations that are able to do that. So we're calling people to think about whether that's something that they could do, because there is a national shortage of foster carers.
Yet we do hear stories of people who desperately want to take in a child and give them a forever home, and they face frustrations.
They do. There's
bureaucracy, broken down bureaucracy, and bureaucracy that makes no sense, can I say? There's rules and regulations out there that I don't think the lawyers can even navigate why they're there. So no, this needs to be put really back on the agenda. I mean, you know, Nelson Mandela was it that said the way we treat our children says so much about the society we are. And children's issues, I think, need to be front of the agenda, the political agenda.
Are there challenges around children's ages? Do people who are looking to adopt or looking to foster tend to want younger children?
Sometimes, and look, some of the children coming into care, you know, maybe 9 years old, and so we do need people that are open to different aged children coming into their home. And look, I guess different situations will suit different people. You know, you may maybe working, and then a child that's in primary school, or I guess the other issue is sibling groups come into care. And so that's something that needs
Trying
to
to
be
keep kids
considered as
together
well.
with their brothers and sisters.
It's critical, and so people that are able to have 2 or 3 children come into their home is really key as well.
When you hear these stories of children going from carer to carer to carer, moving, what did you say, as many as 10 times before they're 18?
Wait for it.
Yeah.
The other day, Renee was at a conference and a guy spoke 70 placements.
Oh, my God. And what does that do to
yeah, what does that do?
What does that do? You know, can you imagine you're a child, you're the new kid that's always showing up with their bags, and your trust, your security, you're always a new kid who you don't know where you fit in. How does that affect you as a human being going forward in life? How do you trust the world? But he spoke and you said it was just heartbreaking.
Oh, look, and he's doing amazing work now with other children as well who've experienced similar things. So that's a positive story. But for anyone to go through that, and it's not unusual to hear someone's moved 30 times, 40 times.
Why? Wow. Why do they continue to have to move?
It's a combination because of a shortage of carers. So we do need people where long-term carers or adoptive parents so they can have that stability. But also when the children have experienced trauma and then they have the impermanency on top of that, and that compounds it, that can mean that there might be difficult behaviours as well.
Right.
And the trajectory for a lot of these kids that stay in foster care is drugs, homelessness. The cycle continues because they have no self-esteem because there's never been we need to feel we're precious as human beings. We need to, you look into your mother's eyes, you're precious. These kids don't get that, so their self-esteem is shot. And how do they go out and be productive parts of society when you haven't got the basic tools?
You're just trying to fit in the whole time.
Yeah.
You don't
You're
have
trying to
something
survive.
anchor you.
It's
to
a
the
whole
world.
It's that
different.
sense of belonging, isn't it? All of us just want to feel like we belong somewhere, in a place and with the people around us. And if it's constantly changing, you're never going to develop that feeling.
So you never feel secure. So how can you have a good self-esteem to go out and want to do things or contribute?
I know you've been working for the last 10 years. You've worked so hard, and you've spoken to people at all levels of government. And I remember you were knocking so hard on doors at the beginning and nothing was happening. You really are making breakthroughs now. The fact that the New South Wales government has said, you guys be in charge of looking after these carers and teaching people how to be carers. What can we say to governments to say, to point out how crucial this issue is?
Well, as I said before, it has to be crucial. This is our next generation. These are children. I mean, the reality is, if you're walking down the street, if you saw a 2-year-old walking down the street, would you just keep walking? If that child had no one around, that's the reality. They don't have anyone. It takes creativity to step up and work out, okay, how do we do this better? It takes effort and energy. You've got to want to be involved. So that's why, all these politicians, I implore you, please, make this high on your agenda and step up and make a huge difference in the child's life.
And we really need to support foster carers as well, who do a really critical job. And they do have a tough job, and we need to make that a lot easier for them and provide enough supports for them so that placement or that family environment can really thrive.
If people feel they could give in this way, that they feel they have a home that they could offer to a child in need, what's the best thing for them to do? How can they get in touch?
Yes, well, they can get in touch with us with the My Forever Family program in New South Wales or via our Adopt Change website nationally.
That's fantastic.
And can I just say, there's endless way people can help. Like I always say, what about these kids that are graduating out of foster care? You can have a local school fete and raise money for a computer if that child gets to go to college or something. So it takes creativity, and everyone can contribute to making a difference. And I always say we should look at these kids as our kids.
Yeah.
Can I ask quickly, while we've got you here, Deb, what's brought you home? Why are we lucky enough to have you at home?
School holidays in America. My kids love Australia.
Why don't you guys come back to Australia?
I got off the plane, I sat on the plane, I go, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. As we land at 6 a.m, I said, I'm going straight into the water at Bondi Junction before the Paps get there.
Did you beat them?
I beat them.
But you're a bit of a pap yourself. That photo of you and the cockatoo I showed before, you took that,
Don't mind a bit of photography.
Did you see my cockatoo photo? Did you
Yours is better, actually. You got a big cockatoo.
I've got Does size matter?
No.
Very fun, very cheeky of you, Angela Bishop, Deborra-lee and Renee. It was a really great chat. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thanks, guys.